welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, November 19, 2018. I'm Investor Boynes with the details. There is a difference between a teacher with qualifications and a qualified teacher. This position was put forward by lawyer Israel Bruce as he delivered the feature address at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union rally held last Friday to culminate Teachers Solidarity Week, observed under the theme, "The right to education means the right to a qualified teacher." Speaking on the comments made by retired educator Andrea Bowman last week that unpassionate teachers should find another profession, Bruce said the mark of a qualified teacher is not the qualification and accolades, but their impact in the classroom.
As you attain higher level of qualification and exposure in education, we must see that traveling along the parallel of the children benefiting from your dexterity in the classroom. When you can do that, you can proudly and profoundly say that a right to education is the right to a qualified teacher. And so that the Bowman principle would be properly debunked. And I'm sure that you want to do it. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, I say to you today that good or qualified teachers to be effective in class need much more than subject expertise and intellect. Qualified teachers are able to facilitate learning through the use of formative strategies in class and know when to step back to allow the pupils' reasoning, application, and self-discovery, independent learning, and so forth and so on to occur. That's what the qualified teacher does.
The attorney at law said the authorities also have a role to play in ensuring that those persons who enter the profession do so for the right reasons and called on teachers to protect their profession.
Therefore, no government should simply dump teachers because of their qualifications, but because they are qualified. Do you understand that? You don't dump them into the classroom because they have 5 A-levels and 10 O-levels and maybe a postgraduate diploma. You dump them in the classroom because they are properly trained and ready to take our children to the next level. Because the moment they start doing that, what would happen is they would start to attack the teachers, the good teachers, and you start to hear about performance management and how one is not falling in line with the other. So you have to protect your profession by ensuring that the people who comes into your profession, that they are qualified teachers, ready to hold your hands and to deliver to the nation's youth.
Bruce also took the opportunity to share some words of encouragement with the nation's teachers.
Train your children to your own learning, for they were born in another time. 2, if kids come to us from strong, healthy, functioning families, it makes your job easier. If they do not come to us from strong, healthy, functioning families, it makes your job more important. What we want is to see the child in pursuit of knowledge and not knowledge in pursuit of the child. We are trying to give young people something that can help them. And when we don't know exactly what it is, and what it ought to be. Teaching is the greatest act of optimism. And finally, I want you to take this with you. The mediocre teacher tells, the great teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires.
99 students from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College are the beneficiaries of bursaries from the Republic of China and Taiwan. At a handing over ceremony last Friday, Director of the college, Nigel Scott, said that the students were selected from the various divisions and were awarded to those who really need the financial support in order to continue their studies at the institution.
Access increases for our young people. So do the challenges of meeting the financial needs. Transportation, food, clothing, are all needs that our students have on a regular basis. And so, this Human Resource Development Scholarship, sponsored by the Republic of China and Taiwan, is of immense benefit to so many of our students. They would help our students get to classes a little easier. They would help our students achieve their full potential a little easier.
First Secretary at the Embassy of China in Taiwan said that her government has maintained the $200,000 contribution for the scholarship program for SVG, which are distributed to students at the primary, secondary, and now the college level, who encouraged the students to take advantage of the education afforded to them with the help of the bursary.
Dear students, I'm here to encourage you to work hard in your studies because we believe that through education, students will not only reach their potential, but also change their future. I'm convinced that you will contribute your expertise and your knowledge to your beautiful country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
For this year, some 974 students are expected to benefit from the ROC's bursary program. The buggery laws must be removed, and it is the role of the government to discuss the issue and get the job done. That's the view of Jamaican attorney at law and senior policy analyst with the Canadian HIV and AIDS Legal Network, Maurice Tomlinson, as he presented the book Intimate Conviction at a discussion last Friday at the Marion House. The book contains presentations by various stakeholders at a two-day conference held in Canada last year, focusing on the role of the church in relation to the buggery laws and HIV and AIDS. Tomlinson said in the Caribbean, the HIV rate among men who have sex with men is high, with sub-Saharan Africa having the highest number of cases globally. He said homophobia and criminalizing of consensual same-sex relationships prevent many from accessing health care. He further noted that on the matter of decriminalization, it is the government's role to bring the issue to the forefront and not the church.
I note that the bishop, I'm an Anglican by the way, I should say, the bishop of the Eastern Caribbean said, no, that's not our role. We can't tell you how to make laws. That's like you telling us how to teach theology. They are two different spheres. Right? And I think the bishop was quite right. It is not the role of the church to tell the government what laws to make. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto Christ what is Christ's, unto God what's God's. So that was the position of the Prime Minister. So we are here to say to the Prime Minister and to those other Vincentian religious individuals who may be confused, there are many churches, many churches, who believe that the anti-sodomy law should be repealed. And
Tomlinson said he hopes a similar conference can be held in the Caribbean and looks forward to the presentation that would be made by religious leaders who support the call for decriminalization.
Say is that I'm hoping that this book is a tool that can be used to help, because you've quite rightly said, as we have found in our work in the Caribbean, that the religious argument is usually the first impediment to any kind of advance in getting rid of, stigma and discrimination. Well, it's the Bible says, and the church says, right? So what we're saying is, well, actually, not all churches say that, and here's evidence. So this is this will help to hopefully, this is a tool we hope you'll be able to use to dispel that myth, to have that dialogue. And I should also point out that this is not the only dialogue or conference we will do. The aim now is to have another conference in the Caribbean, and I've already identified a pastor, because that was very tough, finding a host pastor who was brave enough to be the person who is going to be hosting that conference. We're going to host another one. The first one is in Jamaica. We're planning to host another one in the Caribbean, where there'll be more religious leaders from the Caribbean and the global south, including Africa, India, because it's not a conversation only happening in Jamaica or the Caribbean. It's happening across the globe.
Tomlinson said that research reveals that countries which do not decriminalize buggery or sodomy have lower cases of HIV among men who have sex with men. He said the law clearly hampers efforts to reduce the spread of the disease.
The issue is not is not the practice, it's the law which criminalizes the practice and denies you knowledge. Let's face it, cervical cancer, I don't know if you know, but cervical cancer, you say potato, I say potato. Cervical cancer is caused by a virus, the HPV virus. The HPV virus is transmitted by sex. Okay? And the issue is, because heterosexual sex is legal, you can go and talk about it and get an intervention and get there's a vaccine and all that. You can do that because it's legal. HIV is a virus. Okay? It leads to AIDS. It's not AIDS, but it leads to AIDS. But because anal intercourse is one of the ways that it's transmitted is illegal, you can't talk about it to the doctor, you can't protect yourself, you can't. So that's why you have more.
Meanwhile, Reverend Tom Decker, a chaplain in the Canadian Armed Forces, said the church can exist in the modern world if it cares for all and stays in its own lane. Reverend Decker was speaking at Friday's discussion and said the chaplains of the Canadian Armed Forces provide services and care to all those who need it regardless of religious belief or sexual orientation. He said this model can be used by all churches today.
In our motto, as Canadian military chaplains, we care for all, regardless of who you are, where you come from, what you believe, what you don't believe. We care for all. We minister to our own, meaning I stay in my lane. If someone is Anglican and comes to me and says, you know, I want my child baptized in the Anglican tradition, great, let's go. Third, we facilitate the worship of others. So a Roman Catholic friend of mine comes and says, you know, I want my child baptized. Oh, sure. Let's talk to the Roman Catholic padre over there. We all stay in our lanes. But the important thing is that no one, for no circumstance whatsoever, is ever discriminated against or is excluded from receiving services. It doesn't matter. We care for all, but we also stay in our lanes.
The military chaplain said the concept of religious freedom does not mean one can force their belief on another. He used the words of a Roman bishop to emphasize his point.
It is, and this was written in 212, it is a fundamental human right, a privilege of nature, that every man should worship according to his own convictions. One man's religion neither harms nor helps another man. So if I ram my religion down your throat, it won't do you any good. Won't do me any good either, by the way. It is assuredly no part of religion to compel religion. Isn't that fantastic? To which free will and not force should lead us, the sacrificial victims even being required of a willing mind. You will render no real service to your God by compelling us to sacrifice, for they can have no desire of offerings from the unwilling unless they are animated by a spirit of contention, which is a thing altogether undivine.
Positive male role models. This is the theme under which International Men's Day is being observed today. Courtney Richards, a mentor and advisor to Project Men 2020, which is a newly formed organization in the Caribbean, said that men need to be celebrated in a positive way.
My message to men is this: those of you who are doing very well, keep on doing very well and take some other men under your wings. Take some younger ones. And so we need to encourage the men to step out and take others with them on the journey. He talked about having somebody above you, there's a 1, 2, 3 principle. Having somebody above you who's older and wiser, an older, wiser man, then having 2 people beside you who are your age group and so on, and then having 3 people younger than you. It doesn't have to be 3 or exactly like that. You can take on more. So we want to encourage the men to do that. We want to ask churches and communities to celebrate the men who are doing very well.
Project Men 2020 got started 4 years ago, and according to the Assistant Project Coordinator Alex Altador, the response they have been getting for their work is quite commendable.
Normally at our conferences we find ourselves having to shut up men. Men are known for not being talkative, women are known for being talkative and feeling a lot. But whenever we get with men and we start talking men issues, men become very vocal. One man I remember him clearly from Barley. I remember him standing up in the middle of the conference and saying, "I've called my wife and I'm a changed man." Of course he criticized us. The one criticism was the information was a lot, so it was a lot to digest at the time, but he said, "I'm a changed man, I'm going home as a changed man, and I've already called my wife to say a new husband is coming home." And he's not the only one. We've gotten lots of stories like that in St. Vincent and beyond St. Vincent of changed lives.
Altador said that men need to be educated and encouraged by all persons in society to take their role seriously. Reverend Richards, however, noted that in recent times, there has been a change in young men which should be applauded.
Younger men taking on their responsibilities at home, and so they're teaming up, working with their wives, or the women in their lives, taking care of the children, doing housework, even cooking. Some men come home and do the cooking and their wives don't do any of the cooking. Some of them, it is very stark to see in the Caribbean. This is not just a Vincentian phenomenon. Some of the young men are the ones taking care of little babies, which is very unusual because psychologically in the development of a child, men tend to like to deal with children when they can play with them.
The police are investigating the death of 61-year-old watchman Verrill James of Stubbs, who was found dead at the back of his home on Sunday morning around 7 a.m. His body was partially burnt and, according to police, had marks of violence and burns from the belly down to the feet, which is consistent with that of a homicide. When our news team visited James's neighborhood today in the Stubbs community, we were told that it was a friend who discovered his body. The friend who spoke to our news team did not want his identity revealed, but shared with us what he saw and knows of the incident.
I came looking to get some tools, so I hollered, I didn't hear no answer. So a friend came by and told me that somebody sent to look for him, they ain't seen him in 3 days. So I jumped the wall, I called on his window, nobody answered. When I came around, I seen him dead. One black in his face, one inside his chest, and he burned up yesterday morning when we find him.
Okay, what?
Black. You see on the phone, just as a dark, black. In smoke. They smell it around after 9 Friday night. But they think that he burned the food. But it was him burning up. But people smell the smell now. Friend, the two of them drink together. Everybody drinks. When he drink, he's miserable. But he don't really bother nobody now. But just when he drink, he's miserable. That's all. I know him a long time now. A very long time.
So you said he lived here all his life?
Some residents who spoke with our news team off camera said that they saw James on Friday, who was drinking with some friends at his house. In a news release issued by the police, it was stated that James, who lived alone, was last seen about 4 p.m. on Saturday, November 17th. A post-mortem examination will be conducted on the body to ascertain the cause of death. The police are soliciting the assistance of members of the public who may have any information in relation to James's killing and can contact ACP in charge crimes on telephone numbers 456-1339 or Officer in charge South Central Division at 457-1810. All calls will be treated with confidentiality. The fisherfolk in Rose Place are in mourning following the death of a young boat engineer and fisherman from the area who died tragically in a motorbike accident on Sunday evening on the Camden Park Public Road. Larissa Pugsy Kid tells us more in this report.
23-year-old Shadrach Peer, well known as Powerful of Rose Place, was killed in a motorcycle accident in Camden Park on Sunday evening in front of Vinlec Substation industrial site. According to reports from persons in the area, a van came out of the gap while Peer was also riding his way out to Kingstown. He had just left his brother's place in Camden Park. Peer reportedly tried to avoid the van, but instead he hit a bump on the side of the street and was flung from his motorbike several feet away and died on impact. At his home in Rose Place, his father and other fisherfolk were visibly in mourning. His father, Aaron Peer, told us that his son, who had a passion for bikes, was a rider for 3 years now, and that he also had a love for boats and fishing.
I buy this boat and he became the captain for the boat because I resigned. He's the navigator, he can well navigate, you know. So we just go little countries and St. Lucia and different places, you know. And then, you know, he with friends, you know, he like things, he young guy, he like bike. You like to ride, you know. I never condemn him from riding, you know. Come on. What you like most in life, you enjoy it. Yes. So I gave him his right away, you go ahead. But I didn't expect something like this to come out, you know. And recently we go to sea when we want and when we feel like, because, you know, me and my two sons work the sea. Me and my two sons work the sea. And the sea more dangerous than the bike he was riding. Because the water life is not easy. I know that from experience.
Pierce said that his wife, upon learning of her son's death, had to be rushed to the hospital but is now feeling better. He said that his son will be missed by many.
So when he swing on the line, he get, you know, good boy, that's a good boy. This is one of the good youth.
That's good.
And the whole nation, you will get to tell it, these youth, nobody ain't coming to make no complaint to say cussing, you know. Take your time and ride. Most people go tell me, tell him boy, tell Powerful to take his time, you know? Yeah, most people go tell me that. Like, tell him take his time. See him on the bike, you know, he riding good, you know. He not one day to say, well, daddy, I black-eyed blue, you know? Not those kind of, if you come in the kitchen, he will ask, daddy, I taking some food. Or I taking a piece of.
The grieving father said that only recently they lost a daughter to cancer and are still grieving, and tragedy has struck again. Reporting for SVGTV News, I am Larissa Pugsley-Kidd.
The police say a total of 40 traffic tickets were issued to several motorists on Saturday, November 17, 2018 for playing loud and amplified music in their motor vehicles without the approval of the Commissioner of Police. Contrary to Regulation 31 of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, Regulation 483 of the revised edition of the laws of SVG. On Sunday, there was a road trip from Peace Memorial Hall and to Trumaka sanctioned by the police. According to head of the Traffic Department, Superintendent of Police, Kenneth John, at previous similar events, a level of reckless driving was exhibited by some motorists, and as a precautionary measure, the Traffic Department deployed traffic officers along the route which the motorists were taking, in order to regulate the traffic, ensure safety, and that the traffic laws were upheld. Superintendent John stated that he was very satisfied and happy that no one sustained any injury during the road trip. However, traffic officers had cause to issue 40 traffic tickets to those motorists who were in breach of the traffic regulation. He stated that some drivers were issued as much as 5 tickets each for failing to comply with the regulations. The RSVG police force is reminding the general public and motorists in particular that it is an offense to play loud music in motor vehicles without the approval of the Commissioner of Police and urge compliance to the regulation.